The notification from my daughter's school nurse cut through my Tuesday afternoon like a blade. Emma had collapsed during recess, her tiny 7-year-old body crumpling to the playground asphalt while other children screamed for help. My hands shook as I drove to the hospital, my mind racing through every terrible possibility. The pediatric cardiologist's words still echo in my memory 3 months later. Congenital heart defect. Surgery required immediately. Cost? $112,000. My insurance would cover 60%, leaving me with a crushing $45,000 gap that might as well have been $45 million. I had exactly one option. The money I'd loaned to my parents 8 months earlier when their catering business faced bankruptcy. $75,000 from my late husband's life insurance policy, money that was supposed to secure Emma's future. Money they'd promised to repay within 6 months with interest. I called them that night from Emma's hospital room, watching her sleep with monitors beeping steadily beside her bed. "Mom, I need the loan repaid immediately. Emma needs heart surgery. We have to move fast." The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. Then my mother's voice, careful and controlled. "Oh, honey, that's not really possible right now. We've already committed those funds to something very important." "Something important? More important than your granddaughter's life?" Another pause. "Well, your brother's engagement party is next month, and the wedding is in 4 months. We've put deposits down everywhere. People are expecting something spectacular." My vision blurred as the full weight of her words hit me. They were choosing my brother's wedding over Emma's heart surgery, their social reputation over their granddaughter's survival. That conversation happened 3 months ago. Emma got her surgery, thanks to a medical loan that will take me 15 years to repay at crushing interest rates. She's recovering beautifully now, her energy returning day by day. But something else happened during those terrifying weeks when I thought I might lose her. I discovered exactly who my family really is. And more importantly, I discovered who I am when pushed beyond my breaking point. You see, I'd always been the reliable daughter, the one who never caused drama, never asked for help, never rocked the family boat. When Dad's business struggled, I handed over my husband's life insurance without a second thought. When Mom needed someone to organize family gatherings, I dropped everything. When my golden boy brother needed contacts for his new job, I opened my entire professional network. I was the family's safety net, always there to catch everyone else when they fell. But when I needed catching, when my daughter's life hung in the balance, they let me crash to the ground. The wedding was everything my parents dreamed it would be. Lavish venue overlooking the lake, designer flowers that cost more than most people's cars, a 7-course dinner for 300 guests, open bar featuring premium liquor, live band flown in from Nashville. My brother looked magnificent in his custom tuxedo. My new sister-in-law radiant in her $20,000 gown. So, I watched it all from the back table they'd assigned me, the divorced single mother table tucked behind a pillar where I wouldn't spoil anyone's photos. Emma sat beside me in her flower girl dress, still pale from surgery, but smiling as she watched the celebration unfold. The father of the bride's speech made my stomach turn. My father stood proudly, crystal champagne, flute raised high, praising his son's success and the beautiful new addition to our family. He talked about sacrifice, about how parents do anything for their children's happiness. The irony burned like acid in my throat. But here's what my parents didn't know as they basked in their social triumph. Here's what they couldn't have imagined as they spent my daughter's heart surgery, money on ice sculptures, and premium champagne. I'd been documenting everything. Every text message, where they promised repayment, every email about wedding expenses, every social media post showcasing their lavish spending while my daughter recovered from life-saving surgery they refused to help fund. More importantly, I'd been building something. While they planned their party, I was planning my independence. While they chose reputation over responsibility, I was choosing my daughter's future over their approval. The medical loan officer who helped me finance Emma's surgery introduced me to a financial advisor. Did you know that people who overcome major financial crises often develop incredible money management skills? Turns out, nearly losing everything teaches you exactly what matters. I started a side business from my hospital bedside, freelance marketing consulting using skills I developed in my corporate job. While Emma slept, I built client relationships. While she attended physical therapy, I crafted campaigns. While she slowly regained her strength, I slowly built our financial fortress. The business grew faster than I dared hope. Apparently, there's real demand for someone who understands crisis management, someone who can stay calm under pressure, someone who gets results when everything's on the line. 6 months after Emma's surgery, my side business was earning more than my day job. 9 months later, I quit corporate life entirely. 12 months later, I was turning away clients. But money was just the beginning. The real transformation happened inside me in the way I viewed family, loyalty, and self-worth. I started saying no. When my parents called asking me to organize my party, I declined Aunt's birthday. When they needed someone to house sit during their anniversary cruise, I was suddenly unavailable. When my brother wanted introductions to my new high-profile clients, I wished him luck finding his own connections. At first, they thought I was going through a phase. Stress from Emma's health scare, they whispered. She'll come around once things settle down. But things were settling down, just not in the way they expected. Emma was thriving in her new private school, the one I could finally afford. We moved to a better neighborhood, bought a house with a backyard big enough for the swing set she'd always wanted. We took vacations, real ones, not the obligatory family gatherings where I paid for everything and got treated like the help. I was building the life I should have had all along, one where my daughter came first, where my needs mattered, where respect wasn't something I begged for but something I commanded. The first crack in their facade appeared at Thanksgiving. I didn't show up. For 32 years, I'd never missed a family holiday. I was the one who brought the desserts, helped with the cooking, cleaned up afterward while everyone else watched football. This year, Emma and I volunteered at the Children's Hospital instead, serving dinner to families whose kids were spending the holiday in patient rooms. We met parents who understood what it meant to fight for your child's life, who knew the weight of impossible medical bills, who recognized the look in my eyes because they'd seen it in their own mirrors. My phone buzzed constantly with increasingly frantic messages. Where are you? How could you abandon the family? Don't you care about tradition? I turned off my phone and helped a father whose daughter was waiting for a kidney transplant. His wife had started a fundraising campaign online, sharing their story with strangers who donated what they could. Complete strangers, showing more compassion than my own parents had. That's when the plan truly crystallized. Not revenge exactly, because revenge implies anger. And I wasn't angry anymore. I was clear. I was going to show them exactly what family loyalty really means. I was going to demonstrate the difference between people who support each other and people who simply take from each other. Most importantly, I was going to make sure Emma understood her worth, that she never accepts crumbs when she deserves the whole feast. The foundation launched quietly in January. The Emma Rose Foundation, named for my daughter and my late husband. Our mission was simple: helping families bridge the gap between insurance coverage and life-saving medical treatments for children. Our first grant went to a family whose son needed emergency brain surgery. $23,000, the exact amount that would have covered their insurance deductible and copays. The mother cried when I called with the news, telling me through tears that strangers had just saved her child's life. The second grant helped a single father whose daughter needed a heart procedure similar to Emma's. $18,000 that meant she could have surgery at the best children's hospital instead of waiting months for a charity slot. By March, we'd helped 12 families. By June, 28. Each grant came with a handwritten note from Emma, who'd insisted on being involved despite her young age. She understood that other kids were facing what she'd faced, and she wanted to help. The foundation's success attracted attention. Local news picked up our story. A regional magazine featured us in their Community Heroes section. Social media followers grew organically as families shared their experiences. But the real momentum came from an unexpected source. Dr. Martinez, Emma's cardiologist, had been watching our work. He approached me with a proposal that would change everything. The proposal Dr. Martinez presented would become the turning point I never saw coming. He wanted to partner with our foundation to create a comprehensive support program for pediatric cardiac patients. Not just financial assistance, but emotional support, family counseling, and educational resources. More importantly, he wanted to nominate us for the Regional Healthcare Innovation Award. The ceremony would be held at the Grand Ballroom downtown, the same venue where my brother's wedding reception had taken place just 18 months earlier. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same space where my parents had celebrated spending my daughter's medical money would now host recognition for the foundation born from their betrayal. But Dr. Martinez's proposal came with unexpected complications. The nomination required detailed financial disclosures, including documentation of how the foundation began. I would need to publicly share our story, Emma's story, and yes, my family's story. The application asked pointed questions. What inspired you to start this foundation? What personal experience drove your mission? What obstacles did you overcome? I stared at those questions for hours, Emma coloring beside me at our kitchen table. She'd grown so much stronger, her cheeks pink with health, her energy boundless. Sometimes I forgot she'd ever been sick until I caught sight of the thin scar beneath her collarbone. "Mommy, why do you look sad?" she asked, setting down her crayon. "I'm not sad, sweetheart. I'm thinking about how to help more kids like you." She nodded seriously, understanding in that way children sometimes do. "Are you going to tell people about when I was sick? Would that be okay with you? If it helps other kids? Yes. But Mommy? Will you tell them about how Grandma and Grandpa didn't help us?" The question hit me like a physical blow. Emma rarely mentioned my parents anymore. They'd made minimal effort to see her since the wedding. Always too busy with social commitments or my brother's latest achievements. "What do you think I should say about that?" I asked carefully. "Tell the truth," she said simply. "That's what you taught me." Out of the mouths of babes. I filled out the application that night, every truthful word burning as I typed it. The story of a family that chose appearances over action, a daughter who learned to choose herself, and a foundation born from the over their approval, understanding that sometimes strangers care more than blood relatives. The response came faster than expected. We were finalists. The ceremony would be in 6 weeks. Local media wanted interviews. The hospital wanted to feature our story in their newsletter. My phone started ringing with congratulations from people I hadn't heard from in months. Colleagues from my old corporate job, parents from Emma's school, even some distant relatives who'd somehow heard the news. But notably absent were calls from my parents or my brother, until the day the newspaper article came out. The headline read, "Local Mother Turns Medical Crisis into Mission of Hope." The article detailed Emma's surgery, my struggle to pay for it, and how that experience led to creating the foundation. It mentioned the families we'd helped, the partnerships we'd built, and our nomination for the healthcare award. What it didn't mention, because I'd been careful with my words, was exactly why I needed that medical loan. The article simply stated that family financial assistance hadn't been available when needed. My mother called 30 minutes after the paper hit doorsteps across the city. "Congratulations on your little award nomination," she began, her voice tight with barely controlled fury. "Though I have to say, I'm disappointed in how you've chosen to present our family situation." "I didn't present anything, Mom. I shared my experience starting a foundation. You made it sound like we abandoned you when Emma was sick. Didn't you?" The silence stretched between us, filled with 18 months of unspoken truths. "We had other obligations," she finally said. "Important family commitments that couldn't be changed. More important than Emma's life? Don't be dramatic, Rebecca. Emma got her surgery. She's fine now. This public pity party is embarrassing for the whole family." The old me would have apologized, would have minimized my feelings to preserve family peace, would have found a way to make their abandonment my fault. The new me hung up. The interviews began the following week. Local television wanted our story for their community spotlight segment. The regional magazine that had featured us earlier wanted an expanded piece about foundations started by crisis survivors. Each interview meant retelling our story. Emma's collapse on the playground, the desperate search for funding, the difficult choices I'd faced as a single mother with limited resources. The interviewers always asked the same question. Where was your family during this crisis? I developed a diplomatic response. Everyone handles medical emergencies differently. Some people are able to help immediately, others find different ways to support. What mattered most was getting Emma the care she needed. But Emma, when she participated in interviews, was less diplomatic. My grandparents were planning my uncle's wedding when I was sick, she told one reporter, matter-of-factly. They said the wedding was more important than helping pay for my heart surgery. The reporter's eyebrows shot up. She glanced at me, clearly sensing a deeper story. Emma, I said gently, why don't you tell them about the kids we've helped instead? But the damage, or perhaps the truth, was finally emerging. The reporter included Emma's comment in the final piece, noting that the foundation had been created when traditional family support systems weren't available. The article went viral locally. Social media lit up with comments ranging from supportive to outraged. People shared their own stories of family members who'd failed them during medical crises. Others praised our work helping vulnerable families. My parents' friends started calling them. The questions were polite but pointed. Is it true you couldn't help with Emma's surgery? Were you really planning a wedding during her medical emergency? How do you feel about Rebecca's foundation? My mother called again, this time in tears. You're destroying our reputation, she sobbed. People are looking at us differently. The Hendersons canceled their dinner party invitation. Margaret asked me directly if we'd chosen a wedding over our granddaughter's health. And what did you tell her? I asked. That it's more complicated than that you're exaggerating for sympathy, that we've always been good grandparents. Have you? When was the last time you saw Emma? Another silence, another truth hanging in the air between us. We've been busy, she finally whispered. Too busy for the granddaughter, whose life you could have helped save? She hung up on me this time. The foundation's success continued accelerating. We'd helped 43 families by the time the award ceremony arrived. Corporate sponsors had emerged. A major hospital system wanted to partner with us for a statewide program. Emma had insisted on new dresses for both of us. Hers was navy blue with tiny silver stars. Mine was emerald green, the color my husband used to say brought out my eyes. As we dressed for the ceremony, Emma asked the question I'd been dreading. Will Grandma and Grandpa be there tonight? I don't know, sweetheart. They haven't responded to the invitation. Do you want them to come? I considered the question seriously. 6 months ago, I would have been desperate for their approval, their presence, their acknowledgement of what I'd accomplished. Now I realized I didn't need their validation anymore. I want people there who celebrate us, not people who make us feel small, I told her. She nodded, satisfied with my answer. We arrived at the grand ballroom as the sun set behind the floor-to-ceiling windows. The space looked different than I remembered from my brother's wedding. The same elegant architecture. But tonight it felt welcoming rather than intimidating. Dr. Martinez greeted us at the entrance, beaming with pride. Rebecca, Emma, you both look beautiful. Are you ready to be celebrated? Emma grinned and nodded enthusiastically. I felt a flutter of nerves mixed with anticipation. The ballroom filled with people who'd become part of our extended chosen family, colleagues from the foundation board, medical professionals who'd supported our mission, families we'd helped, some traveling hours to be here tonight. Mrs. Chen approached us, her 6-year-old son Tommy in tow. He'd needed emergency surgery for a rare heart condition 8 months earlier. Our foundation had covered the gap between insurance and total costs. Ms. Rebecca, Tommy said shyly, I drew you a picture. The drawing showed 2 stick figures holding hands, one tall and one small, with a big red heart between them. At the bottom, in careful first-grade handwriting, it read, "Thank you for saving my life." I knelt down to Tommy's level, fighting back tears. "Thank you, Tommy. This is the most beautiful gift I've ever received." As more families arrived, each with their own story of crisis and recovery, I realized something profound had shifted. These people weren't here out of obligation or social expectation. They were here because they chose to be, because our foundation had genuinely impacted their lives. This was what real family looked like. People who showed up when it mattered. People who celebrated your victories and supported you through struggles. People who saw your worth and reflected it back to you. The ceremony began with a video presentation about each nominated foundation. When our segment played, Emma squeezed my hand tightly. The screen showed photos of families we'd helped, testimonials from grateful parents, footage of Emma and me working together in our home office. But what struck me most was how the video captured something I'd never noticed before. In every photo, Emma and I were smiling. Really smiling. The kind that reaches your eyes and transforms your whole face. We looked happy. Not perfect, not problem-free, but genuinely happy. When they called our name as the winner, the applause thundered through the ballroom. Emma jumped up beside me, her face glowing with excitement. We walked to the podium together, her small hand gripping mine tightly. The Crystal Award felt substantial in my hands, etched with words that would have seemed impossible 18 months ago. Outstanding community impact, healthcare innovation, family advocacy excellence. But as I looked out at the audience, something unexpected happened. In the back corner, near the same pillar where they'd seated me at my brother's wedding, I spotted familiar faces. My parents sat rigidly in chairs they'd clearly claimed at the last minute. Their expressions unreadable. My brother was there too, fidgeting with his phone, avoiding eye contact. They'd come, but they looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. For a moment, the old Rebecca surfaced, the one who would have been thrilled by their presence, who would have interpreted their attendance as approval, who would have rushed to thank them afterward. But that woman had died in a hospital room 18 months ago, killed by the revelation that blood relation doesn't guarantee loyalty. I adjusted the microphone and began my acceptance speech. 18 months ago, my daughter Emma collapsed on her school playground. The doctors told me she needed immediate heart surgery that would cost more than I had. In that moment, I learned something crucial about family. I paused, letting my gaze sweep across the room. Some people define family by genetics, by who shares your DNA or your last name. But real family is defined by who shows up when your world is crashing down. The audience was completely silent now, hanging on every word. Real family doesn't make excuses when you need them most. Real family doesn't choose social events over your child's survival. Real family doesn't abandon you and then expect gratitude for their presence at your triumph. I could see my parents shifting uncomfortably in their seats. My mother's face had gone pale. My father stared at his hands. Tonight, I'm surrounded by real family. The medical team who saved my daughter's life. The financial advisors who helped me navigate impossible choices. The strangers who became friends, who opened their hearts and wallets to help children they'd never met. Emma stepped closer to the microphone, her voice clear and confident beyond her 8 years. My mommy saved my life, and now she's saving other kids too. She taught me that when people hurt you, you don't hurt them back. You just build something better. The applause that followed was different now, deeper somehow. People weren't just clapping for our award. They were acknowledging something more profound, the transformation of pain into purpose. As we left the podium, several reporters approached for follow-up questions. But what I noticed most was the exodus happening near the back of the room. My parents and brother were leaving, slipping out quietly without attempting to congratulate us or even make eye contact. Part of me felt a familiar pang of rejection, but it was smaller now, manageable, like an old injury that only aches when it rains. Dr. Martinez appeared at my elbow. That was incredible, Rebecca. The authenticity in your voice, the way you honored real family over biological family, That's going to resonate with so many people. A woman I didn't recognize approached us next. She wore an elegant black dress and had the confident bearing of someone accustomed to boardrooms. Ms. Rebecca, I'm Patricia Williams from the National Children's Health Foundation. We've been following your work, and after tonight's speech, we'd like to discuss expanding your model nationwide. My breath caught. Nationwide expansion had been a distant dream, something we'd talked about in abstract terms during board meetings. We have funding available for the right partnership, she continued. Based on what I've seen tonight and the research we've done on your outcomes, we believe the Emma Rose Foundation could be that partnership. Emma tugged on my dress. Mommy, does that mean we can help kids everywhere? If Ms. Williams is serious, yes, sweetheart. We could help kids all over the country. The rest of the evening blurred together. Business cards exchanged with potential partners. Interviews with reporters who wanted to dig deeper into our story. Conversations with other foundation leaders about collaboration opportunities. But what I remember most clearly is the moment near the end of the night when Mrs. Chen pulled me aside. My husband and I have been talking, she said quietly. Tommy's surgery was successful because of your foundation, but the support you provided went beyond money. You gave us hope when we had none. You showed us that strangers could become family. She paused, gathering her thoughts. We want to establish a scholarship fund through your foundation for single mothers pursuing careers in healthcare or social work. We want to help create more people like you. The offer was generous beyond anything I could have imagined. But more than the money, it represented something profound. Our crisis had created ripples that were now generating their own waves of positive impact. As Emma and I drove home that night, she fell asleep in her car seat, still wearing her star-spangled dress. The award ceremony program clutched in her small hands. I thought about the version of myself from 18 months ago, the woman who would have been devastated by my parents' cold departure tonight, who would have spent the drive home analyzing their behavior, making excuses for their absence, finding ways to blame herself for their rejection. That woman had been so focused on earning love that she'd forgotten to recognize it when it appeared. The woman driving home tonight understood something different. Love isn't something you earn through perfect behavior or endless sacrifice. Real love shows up consistently. It chooses you repeatedly, especially when choosing you is difficult. My phone buzzed with a text message. For a moment, I wondered if it might be my mother, finally ready to acknowledge what had happened tonight. Instead, it was from Jennifer, one of our foundation board members who'd been unable to attend the ceremony. Watch the live stream. Your speech was incredible. Emma is so lucky to have you as her mother, and all the families you've helped are lucky to have you as their advocate. Can't wait to discuss the national expansion on Monday. That text was worth more than a dozen congratulations from people who'd failed me when it mattered most. The house felt different when we arrived home. Not just because of the award sitting on our kitchen counter, but because of what it represented. This wasn't just recognition for our foundation's work. It was validation of every difficult choice I'd made over the past 18 months, choosing to start over financially rather than beg for help that would never come, choosing to build new relationships rather than repair damaged ones, choosing Emma's future over my family's approval. As I tucked Emma into bed, she asked the question that had been forming in my mind all evening. Mommy, why didn't Grandma and Grandpa stay to talk to us tonight? I sat on the edge of her bed, choosing my words carefully. Sometimes people feel uncomfortable when they realize they've made mistakes. Instead of apologizing or trying to fix things, they just leave. Will they ever say they're sorry? I don't know, sweetheart. But here's what I've learned. We can't control other people's choices. We can only control our own. And we've chosen to build something beautiful from something painful. She nodded sleepily, satisfied with my answer. After she fell asleep, I sat in our living room, looking at the wall where we'd hung photos from our foundation events. Pictures of Emma with children we'd helped. Images of grateful families at hospital discharge ceremonies. Snapshots of our team celebrating successful grant awards. This was our gallery of chosen family. People who'd entered our lives through crisis, but stayed through choice. Relationships built on mutual support rather than biological obligation. My laptop chimed with an email notification. The subject line made me smile. Partnership proposal, Emma Rose Foundation National Expansion Program. Patricia Williams had moved quickly. The email outlined a partnership that would allow us to replicate our model in 12 major cities within the first year, with potential expansion to all 50 states by year 3. The financial commitment was staggering. They were offering initial funding of $2.8 million, with additional grants available based on performance. Struck me most was the final metrics. But what paragraph of her email? Your speech tonight demonstrated something we've been searching for in a partner organization. Authentic leadership born from personal experience, clear mission focus, and the ability to inspire others through storytelling. The Emma Rose Foundation doesn't just provide financial assistance. You provide hope, and hope is what transforms communities. I stared at those words until they blurred. Hope is what transforms communities. 18 months ago, I'd been a woman without hope, watching my daughter fight for her life, while the people who should have supported us chose a party instead. Tonight, I was a woman whose hope had been transformed into a national platform for helping vulnerable families. The irony wasn't lost on me. My parents' betrayal had accidentally created something more meaningful than anything their approval could have provided. Their rejection had forced me to discover my own strength, to build my own family, to create my own legacy. Tomorrow, I would call Patricia Williams and accept the partnership. We would begin the process of taking our small foundation national, of helping thousands of families navigate medical crises without the support systems they deserved. But tonight, I simply sat in my quiet living room, surrounded by evidence of the life Emma and I had built together, and felt something I'd never experienced before. Complete peace with my choices, total confidence in our future. Absolute certainty that we were exactly where we belonged, with exactly the people who deserved to be in our lives. The phone rang one more time before I went to bed. This time, it was my mother. I let it go to voicemail. 3 days passed before I listened to my mother's voicemail. Emma was at school, and I was reviewing partnership documents when curiosity finally got the better of me. Rebecca. Her voice sounded strained, tired in a way I'd never heard before. I need to speak with you about what happened at the ceremony, about what you said up there. People have been calling, asking questions we don't know how to answer. She paused, and I could hear my father's voice in the background, sharp and agitated. Your father thinks we should handle this through lawyers, but I told him that's not what families do. We need to sit down and discuss this properly. Clear the air before things get out of hand. The message ended there, but something in her tone suggested this wasn't really about clearing the air. This was about damage control. My phone buzzed with a text from my brother. We need to talk. This foundation thing is getting out of hand. You're making the whole family look bad. I set the phone aside and returned to the partnership proposal. Patricia Williams wanted to schedule a conference call with their board of directors next week. They were moving fast, eager to capitalize on the momentum from the award ceremony. But as I read through the expansion timeline, my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw my mother standing on my front porch, clutching her purse with white knuckles. I opened the door, but didn't invite her in. We need to talk, she said, without preamble. This has gone too far. What has gone too far? This public humiliation of our family, making us look like monsters who abandoned a sick child. You know that's not what happened. I leaned against the doorframe, studying her face. She looked older somehow, more fragile than I remembered, but her eyes held the same determination I'd seen countless times when she was managing family narratives. Then tell me what did happen, I said quietly. She shifted uncomfortably. We explained this already. We had commitments. Important family obligations that couldn't be changed. More important than Emma's life? Stop saying that. She's fine now. The surgery was successful. You found a way to pay for it. Everything worked out. I found a way. Not we found a way. I found a way. Her composure cracked slightly. You're being unfair. We've always supported this family in our own ways. What ways? The silence stretched between us. In the distance, I could hear children playing in the neighborhood park, their laughter carrying on the afternoon breeze. Your father and I have decided to make a donation to your foundation, she finally said. A significant one. To show that we support what you're doing. How much? $50,000. The exact amount I'd needed for Emma's surgery 18 months ago. The amount they could have provided without touching their wedding fund. The amount that would have prevented me from taking on crushing debt. Why now, I asked. Because we're proud of what you've accomplished. Because we want to be part of something meaningful. Or because people are asking uncomfortable questions about why you weren't part of it from the beginning. Her mask slipped entirely then. Fine. Yes. People are talking. They're looking at us differently. Margaret Peterson asked me directly if we'd really chosen a wedding over our granddaughter's medical bills. The Hendersons uninvited us from their anniversary party. Your father's business partners are questioning our family values. So this donation is about reputation management. It's about family healing, she said, but the words sounded rehearsed. I stood in my doorway, watching my mother's carefully constructed facade crumble piece by piece. The woman who'd once commanded every room she entered now looked small, desperate, clinging to the hope that money could erase the choices she'd made. Emma will be home from school soon, I said quietly. She has piano practice, then homework. We're building a life here that doesn't require your validation or your guilt money. My mother opened her mouth to protest, but I held up my hand. You made your choice 18 months ago when you decided a party was more important than your granddaughter's heart. I've made mine too. Some bridges can't be rebuilt, and some betrayals can't be bought back. I closed the door gently but firmly, watching through the window as she stood on my porch for several minutes before finally walking away. That evening, Emma and I sat at our kitchen table reviewing the national expansion plans. She traced her finger along the map, pointing to cities where we'd soon help families facing impossible medical bills. Will they have little girls like me who need heart surgery? She asked. Some will. And now, they won't have to face it alone like we did. Because sometimes, the people who hurt you the most accidentally give you the greatest gift. They show you exactly who you are when everything falls apart. And more importantly, who you choose to become when you put the pieces back together. The Emma Rose Foundation would go national. We'd help thousands of families. And we'd do it surrounded by people who chose to stand with us. Not people who demanded we be grateful for their presence after they'd already walked away. That's the real victory. Building something beautiful from betrayal and choosing your own family along the way.